If you're a health of a life coach who isn't getting clients and who is struggling with marketing, then you need to know what's working now in 2025 when it comes to marketing, coaching businesses and getting clients. And that's exactly what I'm going to cover on today's Wholehearted Business Show. Let's dive in. Hi there, welcome to the Wholehearted Business Show. I'm Laura. I help heart-centered and highly sensitive health and life coaches get more clients, grow their businesses and live the best lives while they do it. And today on the show, we're talking all about what is actually working in 2025 when it comes to marketing a health or a life coaching business. But before we get into that, just a quick reminder that this week is the last opportunity to sign up for Search and Connect, my free micro audio summit, which is all about how to use searchable marketing platforms like YouTube, podcasting, your blog, Pinterest, and so on. It is awesome. It is a micro summit, so it's not overwhelming. We've just got a few selected speakers that are giving their best tips on these platforms and how to get started with them, how to use them, how to make the most of them so that you can grow your health or life coaching business. The link is in the description. Please come and join. If you are struggling with marketing, that is the first place to get going because everything in there is so action oriented. It's really going to help you think about things in a new way. But back onto what is actually working in 2025, and spoiler alert, a lot of what we cover in Search and Connect are the things that are actually working in 2025, but we'll cover that as we go through today. Before I kind of get into some of the specific things, I just wanted to share ultimately, the things that work when it comes to new people finding you and for people to actually become clients. Fundamentally, that hasn't changed a lot. We still want people to connect with us. We still want people to trust us. We still want people to like us. The know, like and trust thing is still a thing. We still want all that to happen. Reaching out to people and building relationships and connections with people on a one-to-one basis when it comes to getting clients, none of that has really changed. The fundamentals haven't changed, but how we apply that is a little bit different. And again, we're working in a very fast evolving online space. And, we do want to kind of keep in touch with what is shifting and changing in that space so that we can make the most of our businesses and actually make them successful. So the first thing that is working in 2025 when it comes to marketing is that people are needing more touch points from you, I think, than ever before they are buying or signing up to work with you. Now, again, there's always going to be exceptions to the rule, and there's always going to be people who are going to come into your world, kind of literally have one touch point with you, see you once, and are like, right, actually, this is the person that I want to work with, and bish, bash, bosh, you're sorted. But for a lot of people, they will need a lot of different touch points for you. The online space is really, really busy and noisy. And what a lot of us are saying is that you need to kind of be interacting with people across a few different places really for them to actually remember who you are, actually open your emails, all of that kind of stuff. We need those multiple touch points. So that can look like people being on your list, but also seeing you pop up in their social media feed. It can be having people on your list. I'm going to mention this quite a lot. Have people on your list, but also be listening to your podcast. Or people be listening to your podcast and also seeing you, on YouTube as well. Wherever it is that they are hanging out online, you want to be not just in one place. And I think while email list marketing is still, it's still proven to be the most effective way to kind of convert, and I always kind of see email marketing not as marketing but as conversion more than actual marketing for, in terms of new people finding you. I always see the email list side of it as the conversion, but you're always going to need something else alongside your email marketing conversion that is going to help you be found. And again, those multiple touch points are becoming more and more important as the online space gets busier, as people's attention spans get smaller, all of that kind of stuff. It needs to be in a few different places. So how can we start to approach that without getting completely burnt out? Because again, if you are at the start of your business, you probably don't have the capacity to be visible on several platforms at once. So obviously I have my own method of doing that, which is what I'm now calling the searchable show method. And I'm going to be teaching all of this in a course really, really soon. So if you are interested in how I am visible across Pinterest, YouTube, a podcast and my blog, in kind of one fell swoop, the key thing here is doing it is one thing so that it doesn't become overwhelming, then do look out for the searchable show method, which is going to come really soon because I'm going to teach my exact process on how to do this, all of the things that make it quicker, all of the things that make it easier. But that's one of the ways that I do it. But again, you could follow a similar method to me. It might be that you utilize some paid ads so that you are actually just kind of showing up a bit more on people's feeds if social media is your thing. There's various different ways that you can approach this so that you are just kind of popping up in those extra places where people might otherwise not see you. I will say again though, if you are a newer coach, like try not to stress too much about this. This is something that you can layer in as your business grows. It's all about starting with those kind of core foundations first and then adding those things on top. But more and more people are starting to see this. Like, I'm seeing this in my business. Again, like, other people are talking about this in the online business space. Generally, people are needing a few more touch points before they actually take action and really engage and remember you and actually take action to work with you. So it's just a helpful reminder that if you can, without burning yourself out, be visible in more than one place, and that makes sense. I think I mentioned on last week's show about, trying to have one, if preferably two, and having one of those places be somewhere where you can share content, because that is, again, going to be really, really helpful. Now, again, just to say, that there's always the option of just completely forgoing any kind of content and just kind of doing your marketing on a very one-to-one basis. But what we're talking about is the general things that are working in 2025. And again, this is something that is working, is being visible in multiple places so that people kind of see you across their online experience. The second thing that is working is having a really strong personal brand. Now, this might sound a little bit scary. I know that I work with some clients who are like, oh, I don't want to have a personal brand. I don't want to be like that visible. Like, oh, this feels really awful. But the truth is, like, people are more and more so, the buy-in from people. Now, again, this is not new. People have always wanted that individual connection. I mean, saying that, there's been a massive shift over probably like the last 10 to 15 years when influencer marketing became a thing and people started to use, big companies, faceless companies started to use influencers because that was where people were connecting. They were connecting with individuals and making their purchases based on that. And that's kind of just still evolved. And when it comes to a health or a life coaching business, it's about, for me, people being able to see you walk your talk. It doesn't have to be that you are sharing all the minutiae of your life, but I think people want to get the feeling that they actually know who you are. And, again, maybe that's looking at what it is that you do in your life and kind of deciding, well, here's the boundary, like I'm not going to share my kids or my relationship or whatever, but I'm going to share these other things. And just that little bit of an insight into actually who you are and what your life looks like can really deepen that connection that people have with you. So it's really worth thinking about that from a perspective of how can I show people the ways in which I'm walking my talk. Now, the way that I've always approached content marketing, and if anyone's been in any of my old programs around content marketing, like the Content Marketing for Coaches Club and things like that, you will know that I've talked about how can we create content that is connection content that kind of pulls on some of this. So, creating content based around, well, this is how I do something in my life. And again, what I'm also finding with the rise of AI and more people creating AI generated content is that talking from a place of your personal experience is really important, because that cannot be produced by AI. So AI is really good at trawling everything else out there that's ever been written about a topic and pulling together something that is, it's more of the how to do something stuff. But often what AI can't do is it can't give people that really personalized lived experience point of view that you will have from walking your talk. So that's where your personal branding kind of comes in. And this is why it's a bit of a thing that's working in marketing right now, is because, again, if you're just generating a lot of stuff from AI, people are never really getting to know who you are. They're not really getting that deep connection. They might get like a false sense of that, but they're not actually getting to know who you are. And I think most people can sense that. But when you are creating content and sharing things from this is how I walk my talk, and giving people a little bit of more of an insight into who you are, then that is what creates a much, much deeper connection for people. And they actually get to see, it's kind of, it doesn't have to be aspirational necessarily, but it can be inspirational. It can be educational and helpful to show people how you actually do some of the stuff that you talk about in your business. So I've always, ever since I was blogging really, I've shared quite a lot of the behind the scenes of what I do. And up until recently, I was kind of sharing those quarterly behind the scenes episodes, and I need to get back on that. And I've actually got one planned for kind of around the summer solstice to give you guys a big catch up, because fuck me, there's been some crazy stuff happening in my life recently. But we'll get into that in that episode of the show. So how you can walk your talk as part of a way of sharing your personal brand is really, really exciting. And again, something I am going to touch on in the Searchable Show method when we start that course, because the content that you're creating for your Searchable Show, you want to kind of weave this into that experience as well. And I do think there's ways you can do that without you feeling like getting vulnerability hangovers, feeling really icky, feeling like your boundaries aren't in place. I think there's ways that you can do that. So yeah, Think about your personal brand. Think about how you can show how you are walking your talk, because that's also going to cut through the AI noise as well. The third thing that I'm also seeing really work right now is to have really strong messaging when it comes to what you're putting out there with your marketing. Now, this is all about having an actual point of view. It's actually having a point of view. And I think this is where people are starting to, sit up and take notice. And this is where you start to stand out. Like, you have to have a point of view about what it is that you're doing, about the area of work that you're in. Like, it doesn't mean that you have to, I've noticed sometimes people online, coaches and things, they can kind of like have a controversial point of view just for the sake of being controversial. We're not talking about that bullshit. We're actually talking about, like, genuinely, how do you feel about this subject? How do you feel about this topic, your niche? How are you approaching it? What makes your way of doing it different? And that can simply just be that this is the way that you're doing it in the life that you have, with the experiences that you have. That can be enough. But you want to be sharing that again through however it is that you do in marketing, and really drilling that down. I mean, for example, again, if you are someone who's watched the show for a while, you'll know that I talk more and more now about highly sensitive and heart-centered coaches, and that being a differentiator. And also I talk about kind of like not being bothered about the six-figure business as being a big part of my messaging, because that's just genuinely how I feel about it. Like, I'm not bothered about reaching a certain number just for the sake of saying, kind of give myself a pat on the back and saying, hi, yeah, you're a six-figure business owner now. Like, that does not matter to me. What matters to me is actually having a business that I love, and that gives me a life that I love, and that lets me have an impact in the world. Like, that's what's important to me. And sharing that, I think, has been really, really important in the people who I've attracted as clients, because they feel like that too. Like, they resonate with that too. But on the highly sensitive and heart-centered side, again, I kind of looked at the people that I was working with, the clients that I was attracting, and I was like, we're all like this. Like, this is the commonality. This is one of the things that I'm attracting these people anyway. And when I looked over the copy on my website, I was like, I'm actually saying this anyway, when I realised it. But I was like, actually, just saying that really consistently, it's going to bring the right people to me. I love working with people who are like myself, because I'm like that as well. The way that we show up online when we are highly sensitive, when we need to manage our nervous systems, all of that kind of stuff is different from someone who is wired completely differently to us. Like, it is just a different conversation, and you need to work with someone differently if you are not wired like that. So for me, talking about that more and putting that into more of my messaging in really subtle and simple ways, it doesn't have to be this huge big thing. It's just how you weave your messaging into your marketing, which hopefully you've been able to see me doing in this show. And again, this is why I love this method of creating the podcast, the YouTube video, sharing things on Pinterest as well, and on my blog, is because I get to cover lots of different topics. I get to talk about stuff that I find really interesting. I get to share a bit of my life. I get to weave like all of these things about who I am into what I talk about. And it comes through because it's long form content. It's not like snappy, like 30-second shitty reels. It's longer form content where we've actually got the opportunity to share a point of view, and to do so in a way that you can give enough of the nuance to it. So, and often that just feels much, much better on your nervous system than, doing a 30-second reel that might feel a little bit controversial because you haven't had the opportunity to explain the nuance. So, having really strong messaging, really defining what that looks like for you. Like, what is your point of view? What is your specific point of view around these topics, around your niche, and not being afraid to share that and actually double down on that. And again, that is something that can happen over time. So if you're not there yet, that's okay. It's taken me quite a long time to really be able to hone that in. So don't be afraid if that's not you yet, but actually having a point of view, sharing that is really, really helpful as well. The fourth thing that is really working with marketing right now, and again, this probably sounds like it's not much of like a trendy thing, but it is just a thing, and that is consistency. And I hate to say it, if you are not wired for consistency, this is a difficult one, but consistency is really, really important right now because it's about trust. And again, there's so many people out there, so many people in the online space, and people are going to work with the people that they trust. And consistency and showing up consistently is a way that we do that. So it's really important to figure out what that consistency can look like for you, what's actually achievable, what is doable, what is not going to lead you to be burnt out, what is not going to lead to you beating yourself up if you don't manage it. Like, figuring out what that looks like for you can be really, really important, because people are finding that consistent way of showing up is where you get results. And it's not just kind of in the trust thing, it's also like when you show up and do something consistently, you get better results. Like, it is just a thing. So figuring out what that can look like for you and how that fits in with your, like the way that you're wired, you know, your nervous system, your lifestyle, everything like that. That can be really, really helpful. Just figure out one way of showing up consistently, one place to show up consistently. That can make such a big difference. And then finally, the last thing that is working when it comes to marketing a health or life coaching business in 2025 is paid ads. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but it is paid ads. And this is probably kind of more for my health and life coaches who are a bit more established, who have maybe hit a bit of a wall, or who have maybe just kind of found that the business isn't growing anymore. You're probably going to need to use some ads. Now, it doesn't have to mean that you are like, you know, you've got like a £1,000, $2,000 ads budget every month. It doesn't have to mean that. And the way that I use ads is just about topping up the stuff that I'm already doing. And it's not that expensive the way that I approach ads. I mean, I teach the way that I do ads in Wholehearted Business, my group program. And obviously I use this with my one-to-one mentoring clients as well. And just a little bit of ad spend can make a massive difference. And again, this kind of ties back into a few different things. It ties back into the being seen in multiple places. And when you use ads, that can be one way of supporting that is by using ads. It can also come into the consistency thing, because if you can't necessarily show up somewhere consistently, the ads can potentially do that for you. So that's an option as well. Ultimately, ads are about, it's like the cherry on top of the cake. It's not the whole cake. But what a lot of people are finding is that certainly if you're wanting to scale bigger, you're going to have to face up to the fact that you're going to need to use some ads at some point. The great thing is if you are creating content, again, in the ways in which I certainly do in the Searchable Show method, you've got a lot of content there that you can use to support your ads. So that can be really, really helpful to work all this together. And what I would say is that, you know, with everything that I've covered here, and just to recap, you know, we talked about showing up on multiple places so that people are not just seeing you in their inbox. You kind of want to be visible wherever they are hanging out online, you know, as much as possible within what you can manage, obviously, as like a human being. You want to have like be around and be in more places than just one. You know, you want to be looking at your personal brand, and by that, and it sounds a bit more grand than it is, but basically, you know, at a very basic level, showing your face, like making sure people know who you are, you know, having that point of view, and also talking from your own lived experience, because with AI, I believe that's becoming more important, because what AI can't do is it can't say, hey, I'm called Chat, and I've just been through this process of sorting out my blood sugar and increasing my energy, and this is what I did, and this is how it factored in with my kids. Like AI, ChatGPT cannot do that. It can pull someone else's experience, but it's not going to come through in the same way and resonate in the same way. So don't be afraid to share your lived experience, your unique point of view, and also like just a bit of who you are. You know, like find an area of your life you don't mind showing to people so that they get to know you, they feel like they actually know who you are, because it's going to make a big difference when it comes to connection. And then look at your messaging. And again, part of that point of view stuff comes into the messaging, but, you know, really thinking about the elements of the things that make you who you are as a coach. And again, if you're a newer coach, that might not have evolved enough yet for you to be able to really pinpoint that. Don't be afraid to have a strong opinion. Don't be wishy-washy. You know, like actually really think about what your point of view is, and don't be afraid to share that in a way that feels good to you. Consistency was the next one. You know, find a way of showing up consistently, not just because being consistent will get you better results, but because being consistent also builds trust. And then finally with the ads, and again, you can probably see how the ads could weave into quite a few of these different things, but everything connects. All of these different things connect. And again, you know, I've just come back from Atomicon, so I went to a great conference up near me, which is really quite lucky to have such a great online business conference, like literally 20 minutes away from where I live. So I went to Atomicon, and it was really interesting because a lot of what I'm saying to you now, and I already planned this episode out, I already had all of my notes and things written, but when I was sat in some of the talks and people were saying things, I was like, it was quite affirming, because I was like, actually, I do know what I'm talking about, because everyone else is saying the same things as I am saying when it comes to what's working, you know. So it was really, really affirming to hear that back. So it's not just me kind of coming up with this shit off the top of my head. Like, this is what other people are saying as well who are in the online space. So when it comes to your health and life coaching business, it's about looking at some of these things, looking at what's working and thinking, okay, so how can I even just do a 5% tweak to what it is that I'm doing right now that will make a difference? If you can do a bigger jump, then that's brilliant, but not all of us can manage that. Again, because we're highly sensitive and heart-centered, trying to just like do a huge thing, is probably not going to feel good to us, but can you do like something 5% differently? What little 5% differently can you do? Can you do something that you're already doing more consistently? Can you maybe think about the way that I do the searchable show method? Come and join the searchable show method when I launch it. Like, I am going to bang on about it because I think it's absolutely awesome. But, think about how you can do some of these things. Like, if you are already blogging, adding on the podcast and YouTube element isn't that much of a jump. If you're doing YouTube, my God, you need to be doing all of the rest of them. It makes no sense not to. So, look at what it is that you're doing already and how can you, given what I've just said, can you share a bit more of your point of view? Can you share a little bit more of who you are behind the scenes a little bit, in a way that feels comfortable? Can you just be a little bit more consistent? Like, it doesn't have to be a huge thing. You can just do this 5% more. And if you are someone who is a bit further on, or even if someone who isn't, think about ads. Is there any way that you can like build in an ad strategy? And this is coming from someone who found ads like, oh my God, so overwhelming and horrible. But once I got my head around them, they've really, really shifted the ways in which I show up and the ways in which I can show up. So there we have it. There is what is working now in marketing. And like I say, so much of this was like also talked about at Atomicon, which was really, really great. So think about what you can do in your business based on these, and it's going to help you get better results in 2025. Final reminder, go and sign up for Search and Connect. Again, ultimately, like there's a lot of, especially YouTube right now, I could just talk about YouTube and how much potential YouTube has as a platform for health and life coaches at the moment. Like, it's got so much potential. If you're not on it, like, I hate to be the formal person, but YouTube's got a lot of potential at the moment. And yeah, go and check out Search and Connect. Go and sign up. This is the last time you can sit and sign up for those free trainings. The link is in the bio. Go and sign that up. Look out for the Searchable Show Method, my new course, which is coming out really, really soon. My new kind of live program that's going to be delivered over the summer. More information about that is coming soon. There'll be a link in the bio to check that out as well. If you like the way that I do this, if you want to kind of set up this consistent, fun, effective marketing method for your health and life coaching business. Okay guys, I will leave it there. I really hope that you're doing well. Like I said, I had a fantastic time at Atomicon. I will try and share a bit more about my experiences there because I always come away with some great takeaways. But yeah, I hope that you're all doing fantastically well, and I will catch you next week. Take care. Bye.